You want me to put that on my Tudor?
Harry's wife, the target on Harry's back. Harry's wife, the deflating balloon. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Vanity Fair poses the question in an article by Joe Pompeo, is the air coming out of Harry and Harry's wife's content balloon. First of all, this balloon would not be very large to begin with. They are not individuals that are frequent content creators. Secondly, the content that they have created wasn't something forged by sitting down and thinking, here's an interesting series or documentary that we can make. It's simply, let's talk about ourselves, or more specifically, Harry's wife talking about herself. They created the docuseries Harry and Harry's Wife, which predictably was about them, with Harry's wife's skewed vision forming the basis of the recollections. Archetypes was her hit list of all the things that people have ever said about me that I'm now going to reject, and occasionally I'll interview some of the people that attend. There was no magical series that was created by forging a new world or inventing certain characters. This demonstrates that Harry has little in the way of imagination because he's not particularly clever, and, as we know, Harry's wife has no imagination herself. In fact, the way that she sees the world, although you may think, well, she has quite the imagination, HG, because she regularly makes things up, she doesn't. Not in her world. That is her truth. When I talk about imagination, I mean the capacity to tell a story, to imagine worlds, to build those worlds, to create fascinating narratives, an interplay between certain characters, to take you away from the world that you know and transport you to another one, or contain you within the world that you know, but weaving a different tale. Harry's wife is incapable of those things, because like many, but not all narcissists, she lacks that skill and imagination. Accordingly, not only was the content balloon not particularly large to begin with, it was filled with the hot air of Harry's wife. But let us see what Vanity Fair has to say. Do they recognise the failings, or are they suggesting that there is a better way forward? That there is perhaps going to be some kind of renaissance by Harry's wife? In early 2021, after Prince Harry and Harry's wife sat for a bombshell Oprah interview on the heels of their megawatt deals with Netflix and Spotify, the spitball-attracting royals seemed poised to become media makers in their own right. They reached a whole new audience who now can't wait to see what happens next, the veteran royal chronicler Tina Brown told me at the time. Pausing there, that is accurate, although many people, of course, want to see what happens next, not because they're rooting for the Sussexes, but because they wanted to see them fall. They wanted to see them hoisted by their own petard. Media analyst Rich Grinfield echoed that sentiment, saying, I think this clearly shows whatever their profile was beforehand in the United States and globally, it's clearly that much larger now. A Hollywood source concurred. I think the crossover appeal, Black Lives Matter meets The Crown, is a fever-pitch opportunity. It all seemed so promising, didn't it? A little more than 2 years later, it's fair to say the jury is still out. Yes, Harry published a blockbuster, sales record-busting memoir with the help of an A-list ghostwriter, earning himself the type of press blitz that most authors would kill for. Yes, the Sussexes' drama-filled autobiographical docuseries Last December was Netflix's highest-viewed documentary debut on record, giving tens of millions of viewers something to love-hate as they closed out 2022. But by now, anyone who may have been expecting a full-on smorgasbord of Harry and Harry's wife curated content under the auspices of Archwell Productions has probably moderated their expectations. A whoosh of air came rushing out of the balloon last week when it was announced that Harry and Harry's wife and Spotify had mutually agreed to bail on the $20 million partnership they consummated back in 2020. The Wall Street Journal's sources indicated that Spotify had not reviewed Harry's wife's Archetypes podcast, of which there are only 12 episodes to date, and the couple had not met the productivity benchmarks required to receive the full payout from the deal. The audio industry briefing Pod News reported that some interviews on the show were done by other staffers, with Harry's wife's questions edited afterwards. A former Spotify executive, reacting to the notion that Harry and Harry's wife earned more from Spotify than the company's most streamed song ever, remarked to BBC Radio 4, "Not bad for 12 hours' work." "I'm told Harry and Harry's wife pitched show concepts and acquisitions that Spotify did not move forward with. The Obamas, as previously reported, shared a similar frustration before they left Spotify for Audible. Reached for comment, reps for Spotify and Archwell reiterated the earlier announcement of a mutual parting. The most brutal post-mortem came from a current Spotify executive, the podcasting superstar and Ringer founder Bill Simmons, who also holds the title of Head of Podcast Innovation and Monetization at Spotify. "I wish I'd been involved in the Harry's wife and Harry leave Spotify negotiation," Simmons said on his own podcast days ago. "The fucking grifters. That's the podcast we should have launched with them. I have to get drunk one night and tell the story of the Zoom I had with Harry to try and help him with the podcast idea. It's one of my best stories. Fuck them, the grifters." So spicy were Simmons' comments that the Daily Mail staked him out in a parking garage near the executive's offices in downtown Los Angeles. Filmed as he entered an elevator while juggling a work call, Simmons had no further comment for the intrepid Mail reporter recording their interaction, nor did he reply to an email from me. But it goes without saying that the Mail, presently in the midst of a high-stakes legal battle with Harry, is eating all of this up. Spotify executive Bill Simmons is seen for the first time since he publicly branded Harry and Harry's wife fucking grifters. Harry's wife is accused of faking interviews for axed Spotify podcast, why Harry and Harry's wife's brand could come crashing down, and so on. The end of Spotify's Sussex experiment has, of course, kicked up speculation about the future of Harry and Harry's wife's $100 million deal with Netflix. The Sun's US website says the deal is unlikely to be renewed, with a source suggesting the feeling is that the lemon has been fully squeezed. Of course, it was only weeks ago that the Sun's UK newsroom suggested Harry and Harry's wife were set to produce more content from behind the Netflix cameras, now that the tell-all period of their life is over, as there is nothing left to say. In the words of an insider, which is it? The Netflix deal is in better shape than it ever has been, according to my source familiar with the Archwell deals, who said Harry's Heart of Invictus documentary is slated for later this summer, and that there are various projects in development that have not been announced that all parties are really excited about. Requisite caveat: anything can happen. To be fair to Harry's wife and Harry, their haters are legion and schadenfreude runs deep. It's also not as if they're chugging along without capable representation to negotiate future contracts. On the contrary, Harry's wife and Archwell Productions are, as of April, represented by WME, the powerhouse talent firm that will now explore film and television production, brand partnerships and overall business building with the Sussexes, according to Variety. Responding to the Spotify news, a WME rep told the Journal Harry's wife is continuing to develop more content for the Archetypes audience on another platform. Well, my aside there, that other platform must be thinking about committing suicide if it wants to let in the Duchess of Beige. And yet, the article continues, the $100 million question remains. Does the world really want any more content from Harry and Harry's wife, let alone content that isn't about them? I found one possible answer to that question in a Tuesday column from The Guardian's Marina Hyde. Experience and ratings continue to reveal that where the Sussexes are concerned, people want to watch them complain about their lives and their treatment by the royal family, she wrote. That is the sole genre in which Harry's wife and Harry truly pull in the eyeballs, which, considering they are literally the only people working in it, still feels like theirs to dominate. Interestingly, if that observation is accurate, that means that yes, there's going to be more of the whinge fest. There's going to be more of the victimhood. You'd have thought they'd have exhausted it by now. But of course, if it's necessary for content and her narcissism deems that it's going to enable her to control more people, receive fuel, and of course that more important aspect, money, then there will be further revisions of history, further inventions of history, and more lies being told. In fact, what I see as happening is that Harry's wife will attempt to inflate the balloon with her own content, separate from Harry. Remember, she believes that she's brilliant at everything that she does, despite the evidence showing to the contrary that she has the Sadeem touch. Everything that she touches turns to shit. Ensconced in her world of delusion, she believes that she is impressive, effective, and brilliant. And therefore, the only thing that she can provide is more whinging, more victimhood. And why not go down the route of layering on more of the instances that she believes that she was badly done to by the royal family, and then take it up a notch by complaining about Harry. Complaining about Harry in terms of he didn't defend me, he didn't support me. That will, of course, get tongues wagging and address the prime aims. And then it is but a simple step to then claiming he abused me. And then there will be the whole clusterfuck of the whinge fest, of the pity party, of the sympathy symphony, as she points to his abusive behaviours, not a lack of support, but out and out abuse. As she manufactures it, albeit from her lens, she believes that it actually happened, and where he does respond with a ginger temper, it is, of course, as a response to the provocations and the manipulations that she's directed towards him. But her narcissism will edit it so that he is made out as the abuser. Whilst Vanity Fair asks, has the air leaked out of their content balloon? The answer to that is yes, it has. But Harry's wife is looking to fill it again. And understanding that she is a narcissist means that she's going to start filling it with yet more revisions of histories and lies. Some of it will be about the royal family, but that well is nearly dry. Instead, somebody ginger is going to have a target painted on his back. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.